Okay, I'm going to finish reading chapter 21 in Genesis, but before I do, there were a few comments on some of my videos asking what I was reading from. And I want to clarify this point, and I will probably do this in each video in this series here. So what I am doing is I am reading through what is known as the standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I am not reading them in publication order or in one volume and then the next volume. I am reading them in chronological order of events. And so in the early videos, I kind of jump between books a little bit, and I will do that even more as time goes on. The standard works of the church consist of the Bible, which we generally use the King James Bible, but I also read from excerpts from what is known as the Joseph Smith translation. And this is an inspired translation of the Bible in which Joseph Smith restored portions of the original text that had been lost over the years. The rest of the standard works consist of the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. When I switch from one to another, I will explain what I am switching to and why. And right now, I am in Genesis. We are in the story of Abraham right now. I did do several readings from both the Old Testament as well as the Pearl of Great Price. I also did some readings in the Book of Mormon because of the timeline of events. Now, in future videos, I probably won't give an introduction quite that long, but I will give a brief statement of what this is. So now, let us get back to chapter 21. We start in verse 22. And it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, spake unto Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all that thou doest. Now therefore swear unto me here by God that thou wilt not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son, but according to the kindness that I have done unto thee, thou shalt do unto me, and to the land wherein thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. Okay, so right now, as you recall in the previous video, Isaac was just born, and Hagar and Ishmael were sent away. Now, Abraham is staying in the land of Gerar, which is the land owned and ruled by Abimelech. And Abimelech is coming to Abraham and saying, okay, let's make a vow, let's take an oath together that we will always deal justly together. And Abraham accepts this oath. Continuing on, verse 25. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of a well of water, which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. And Abimelech said, I wot not who hath done this thing, neither didst thou tell me, neither yet heard I of it but today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen, and gave them unto Abimelech, and both of them made a covenant. Okay, what's going on here is that Abraham says he is very willing to take this oath. But before he does, he has to point out that he dug a well, and Abimelech's servants came and they took it away by violence. They attacked Abraham's servants and took control of the well. And Abimelech saying, wait a minute, I've never heard about this. I didn't know this has happened. We'll fix that. We'll get you back your well. And so when Abimelech, without hesitation, without question, he says, I trust you, we'll get you your well back. Then they make their covenant together. Verse 28. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, what mean these 7 ewe lambs which thou hast set by themselves? And he said, for these 7 ewe lambs shalt thou take of my hand, that they may be a witness unto me that I have digged this well. Wherefore he called that place Beer-Sheba, because there they sware her both of them. Thus they made a covenant at Beer-Sheba. Then Abimelech rose up, and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, and they returned into the land of the Philistines. Okay, so Abimelech was willing to take Abraham's word for it, but Abraham says he gives him the 7 ewe lambs, says this is a sign, that this is me swearing. It's kind of like signing your name or swearing under oath in the modern day. Abraham is swearing by these lambs, says, I'm going to give you these lambs to prove that this well is mine. And Abimelech says, okay, we'll accept that. They swear the oath, and then Abimelech and his chief captain return to the city. Now, I find it interesting, wherefore he called that place Beer-Sheba. It means the well of the oath, or well of seven. Kind of not sure which one there. But this is the same area that Hagar went to. And we see here that occasionally, because the stories of the Bible are not told with, how do you put it, in relation to each other, they're episodic, right? So we get the story of Hagar, then we get the story of Abimelech, then we get the story of Lot and Sodom, and then we get these, each story by themselves. We aren't given an actual timeline, or we aren't given where each story is in relation to another. But we're also given the names kind of after the fact. So the well was already dug. That's where he sent Hagar. Is that the same well that Hagar was at that the men tried to take away? Could have been, because they were both in Beer-Sheba. But did Hagar get there first and then Abimelech came? Or did Abimelech come while she was in the wilderness? We're not quite sure how that lines up. But more importantly, even though it calls it the wilderness of Beer-Sheba, we know that Abraham is the one that named it Beer-Sheba. So we are given the names. This is I've mentioned this in previous videos, that some of the names, the author of Genesis is giving the name that he knows it by, even before it is named that. So he calls it, when Hagar goes in, he calls it the wilderness of Beer-Sheba, because that's what the author of Genesis knew it as. But it wasn't until a little after that that it actually got the name of Beer-Sheba. It's just what it's been known to the author. I don't know if my ramblings are making sense. So I'm going to move on. Oh, there is a Joseph Smith translation here on that last verse. It says, then Abimelech rose up and they returned unto the land of the Philistines. So let's go back here into the appendix. Genesis chapter 21 in the Joseph Smith translation in the back. Okay, 21, yeah. Then Abimelech and Phicol, the chief captain of his hosts, rose up, and they planted a grove in Beer-Sheba, and called there on the name of the Lord, and they returned unto the land of the Philistines. And Abraham worshipped the everlasting God, and sojourned in the land of the Philistines many days. There you go. I like that. They planted a grove, and they worshiped God there. They made sacrifices there. Now this is an odd one, because this is a footnote put in verse 32. So now we get verse 33. And Abraham planted a grove in Beer-Sheba, and called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham sojourned in the Philistines' land many days. So this Joseph Smith translation actually covers verses 32 through 34 in here. And it clarifies that it wasn't Abraham that planted the grove, it was Abimelech. That Abimelech and Phicol also worshipped God in this area, and that Abraham dwelled in the area of Beer-Sheba for a fair amount of time. So that will finish out chapter 21.